Your show's rubbish.
Oh yeah, the smooth indie sound of the D Trout spinners. Who am I, Mars?
Is that it? Is that how you want to
Yeah,
introduce the show?
I said to Mars before the recording, because Mars likes to introduce it, I said, don't say anything, or let me introduce it. So I hope for all the audience that was worth it.
What was it?
Yeah, was it? Email in, let us know. But yeah, who are you?
Oh, I'm Miles Pennell, as always. You were Gary Forrestal and are remaining.
Gary, and Miles, I can honestly say this man likes his wine.
Familiar by now, friends.
Karl.
Yeah. Gary, I've only known him 6 years and a half, but he's a friend by now.
Yeah, it's been 8 years.
We're friends, where paths cross.
Where one path crosses for two people. But yeah, actually, thinking about it, yeah, this is our 8th year. This is our
being
8th year of friends. Yeah.
Wow. How are we going to celebrate? Not going to the pub.
we never celebrate our anniversary of our friendship because we're not, I don't know, 10-year-old girls.
I hate those. Well, I actually think guys' friends don't really buy each other birthday presents, don't they?
Well, that's interesting you say that, Miles, because Miles had a big birthday this year. We talked about it before. He was 30, and we went to a health spa, obviously.
All right.
And it was good. It was good. I paid for half his massage, and I bought him a little other gift. But Miles, because I told him I bought him a gift, he bought, even though it was nowhere near my birthday, he's never even texted me on my birthday saying happy birthday. Well, he has, but not regularly. So he bought me a gift, which is quite a nice gift. But it was like not my birthday. It was like 7 years too late. But yeah, thanks anyway, mate.
No, but it's like Valentine's Day. You shouldn't say you love your friends on Valentine's Day, but you should appreciate them on other days of the year.
Yeah. So now this is the D Trout Spinners. If you're new to the show, what have you been doing with your life? As you've not been listening to this, can't believe it. We review. It's a retrospective of the Ricky Gervais show that aired on XFM in 2002, 3, and 4. And today's episode is episode 15 of series 2. So, we won't go into initial thoughts now. I think, actually, we had a quick talk. We don't usually do this, but we had a quick talk about it off air.
Gary's really stepped up on the producing side of things, and he's actually done some stuff.
Oh, well, if you're a regular listener, you'll know how amazing this is. But I've done a feature.
Oh.
So I've actually got a feature. I'll tell you what I had to do. I had to
sit down, I had to think for a bit, and I had to write something down on a bit of paper.
I opened up Google, I typed in 3 words, I went to the first website that came up, I copied and pasted, and now I'm going to read some of it out. But not now, but we'll do that later. But
I can't wait.
We've got a feature, XFM in the community, where we go, we're not doing it now, but where we go through listener feedback and things like that. So thanks for feeding back, and we will read it out on air. But we had a nice email from Sam. Very nice email from Sam.
Does Sam have a second name?
Yeah, well, he does, but I don't want to say it out on air. He might not want it read on air.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe okay, probably Sam Locke, it looks like, from this. I still can't believe our email address is trout.d@gmail.com. Like our Twitter, I can't believe we called
the problem is when I set that up.
No, you did. No.
I had to be consistent with a shit Twitter name.
You did the right thing because it has to mirror our Twitter, but it's some idiot set up our Twitter as Trout.d. So I don't know who that is.
Sacked, aren't they?
But yeah, Sam's very a long email, very nice, very kind. And how have you been this week, Mars?
This week, oh mate, I've had a very good week actually.
Yeah,
I made a katsu curry.
Don't want your life story, mate, but
I made a katsu curry.
Yeah.
I went for a long walk, and in this park, there's deer and little ducks and baby ducks.
There's deer.
Yeah, a caged deer.
Caged deer.
Yeah. Well,
Caged
that
deer.
in a pen, in a pen.
Right.
Deer in a cage.
Are you sure you hadn't? Are you sure they weren't? Are you sure you hadn't wandered into like London Zoo?
No.
Okay.
This is Clearside Park in Stoke Newington. There's not wild deer, but
I know
that
park. They have geese.
Yeah, most parks.
Yeah.
Geese. I was just walking around with a beaming smile. I don't know why. It's just the sight of nature and wildlife generally like makes me sort of smile.
There's something about Miles that makes him it makes him feel warm when he sees an animal behind bars, and I don't know. It's always been the case. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, no, it has been a good week. It was funny actually because I saw my friend yesterday. We had a secret socially distanced walk, right? I know I shouldn't have done it.
Still breaking the rules, but anyway, we're not.
It's not sort of, but I have been I've been hugely, following them until this point. Anyway,
I've been round. I've had FLJS around my flat. He's been living there. So
no, and but it's weird how you're sort of like the natural rules of conversation and like just seeing someone is really weird now. Seeing someone's face is weird. I took it to my mum because my mum's sort of done the same, and it's like, oh, you're a person. I haven't seen a person. I've seen people, obviously, but a friend obviously is someone that like talking to you now on Zoom isn't the same as talking to you in real life, is it?
No, it's better for me. I prefer it because I can just shut it off and go and I'm at my flat. No, it's not the same, but it's also not radically different. I don't think it's like, obviously when we meet, we put it, well, I won't go into details, but put it this way, we make a day of it. But
yeah,
with Skype it's kind of, little bits here and there, but I've had Skype meetings with people, and it's become sort of the new normal. And it's not, for me, it's not strange to see a face. I know what you mean, but because when I go shopping, I see lots of faces. They're just faces, but they're not people I know. But it will be strange when we can all meet again, and do you know what I mean? We then congregate together, and we're in a group of 5 or 6. That'll be odd.
Yeah. No. How has your week been?
Yeah, not bad.
Great. That's that. Let's move on.
I was deliberately of choose. It was it's fine. It's fine. A lot on doing essays and things, catching up with stuff. So
yeah.
That's
what you've been learning about this week.
See, Mars does this. He asks me sometimes, and then literally 3 seconds into my answer, here we go, like a child, like that's bored, like having a tantrum.
Well, no, what is it you were doing? What method?
I'm working on an essay that is looking at the German Forestry Commission's anti-climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, could you just make that noise again, Mars?
Yeah.
that's what I get all the time. So anyway, the listeners don't want to hear that, but
no, they don't.
I've been okay. It's still very strange, the situation, but I think we're recording this on the 8th of May. I think on the 10th of May the restrictions will be relaxed. I think both of us, we talked before the show, we both think that's too early. Like, I think it's too early, certainly, and you said you thought it was too early.
Don't come out of lockdown until you're going to open the pubs, all right?
Yeah.
Not interested.
Won't open until Christmas, apparently, so...
That's ridiculous.
Oh, God.
Oh,
but it's funny, because with Skype, it's like, if you have to meet someone, you have to travel quite far, it takes a long time. One person might be a bit late or something, but technically, on Skype, you should be instantaneous. It should be, as soon as you've agreed to meet, you should be there. But last week, Mars and I agreed to Skype.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't record a show, but we were just writing, and we agreed to Skype at I think 11 something, and by like 12:30 I texted him. I said, I've fallen asleep. Mark says, yeah, I had two,
Yeah.
I had two ciders. I feel sleepy. We're just terrible. But we're Mars, both in our 30s is
Both in our 30s.
a fact.
Okay. So let's move on to
Can you believe? Actually, it's my birthday. I was just going to say,
I don't see going on about it. What are you hoping listeners can send you a present?
It's the first time I've mentioned it, but anyway, well, it's not a good thing, but I'm nearly the age of David Brent when they filmed The Office. I'm nearly the age of that character. That's just so weird to me.
Are you?
Anyway,
and you're not even like, you know, the boss of a successful paper merchant.
No, I'm the boss of an unsuccessful paper merchant. We're nearly going under, mate. But anyway, today's show. So what you're going to do your little intro now. He likes to do that.
Pop in a little intro, get that out of the way. Okay, let's get this ball on the
ball rolling. Mate.
Ball rolling.
This ball on the road. You're mixing metaphors.
Let's get the ball on the show, and this is season 2, episode 15. Originally broadcast on the 30th of November 2002. Gary, I always ask you, what were you doing on the 30th of November 2002?
Well, it's always the same answer at the moment. I was in Birmingham Uni.
There we go.
Doing one term at Birmingham Uni in a shared room. Oh, God, you know how I feel about shared rooms.
Oh.
And imagine having a shared room that you have to share for the whole year with
someone. I would hate to share a room with you. Speaking on the person,
we have shared a room, and it was a flooded room.
Gary's face when we walked into that room, and instead of it being 2 rooms, it had a sort of curtain, not a curtain. It might as well have been a curtain rail, but it was like one of those old-fashioned things that you go behind to change, and you use it as a partition wall. And Gary's face was like, "What? I've never seen your face drop so much." You're like, "They promised us 2 rooms."
My face is always low, so it dropped even further. But no, I don't like sharing a room. I'm not. We actually ended up getting a full refund on that flat and a half a refund on our travel. So, both of which were nightmarish. The travel was hellish, but we deserved our refund for that.
Yeah, totally.
But anyway, so go on.
In this show, XFM started an advertising campaign for the show, but Karl didn't want to be included, and Ricky explains how Jonathan Ross sees him as a predatory gay. If you are tuning in just now, it's not live, is it? Of course they're not. I forgot we're not live.
Keep that bit in. Don't edit.
Okay,
I'll be checking that's still in.
Yeah, no, you won't. You never check the shows.
No, but I will check this one.
Do head over to Podrot and listen to the shows. I'll put links in the description. Listen to the show, and then come back and debrief with us after. And it will make the experience fuller and richer for it.
You could do it 2 ways. You could listen to our show, then listen to the show, or you could listen to the XFM show and then come and sort of listen for our thoughts. So whatever way around you want to do it, but do rate us 2 stars upwards, please.
I'd say 4 stars upwards.
Well, if you
let's not go into it again. We're not going into it again.
Well, we got 1 3-star review, and Mars.
Go on about it.
He must have messaged me about 12 times.
I'm over it. As I said last episode. So let's talk now. People have come back. They've listened to the show. They've enjoyed it. They've not enjoyed it. They've got thoughts and opinions. What are your thoughts and opinions? Your initial
my initial thoughts. Look, I think it's a good show, but it's certainly not one of my favourites. I think that the educating Ricky isn't, and Karl even admits it's not that good.
Oh, the thing that's not that good. So you've really G'd up there.
Yeah, but but I'm honest. So if I think
that's a quote from Ricky when he goes, Karl goes, I've got some stuff coming up, but it's not that good.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. But I think it's, the educating Ricky. The educating Ricky, again, and it's this thing where it was pretty much true, I think, what he was saying. So it wasn't that interesting. It wasn't...
Well, the cat out of the bag wasn't.
No, I have actually heard it's not the cat of 9,000. And it is that. I've heard that because I looked it up like years ago. after hearing this episode. So it's ambiguous. We don't know what it is. But put it this way, the stories aren't like weird enough to kind of be that interesting. They could be true.
Yeah.
I think it's more interesting when an alien giving a man a beard cannot be true. So that's more interesting. I think other than that, yeah, nothing stands out to me in this episode as kind of one that I would, deliberately come back to and listen to. There's some good quotes in it.
I think the best shows are always when like emotions are heightened. Like with this one, you can tell like Carl's a little bit lackluster. He's a bit tired. Ricky's just he's a bit sort of samey, is a bit sort of like chilled. The best shows are always when like the stakes are higher, where like the emotions are more intense. Like Carl's been really pissed off. Maybe Ricky's been pissing him off in the studio beforehand, and then that switchboard comes on and it's 2 p.m. and you've got to suddenly, get in, and you're literally being dropped into the center of the action. Like that's how. Do you remember when we used to do hospital radio shows? Like I used to often come out the studio and go, "Oh, that was shit." Like, or I wasn't happy with it, and then you'd go, "No, it's all right." And when you listen again, it's different.
Yeah,
but that's what this episode made me think of, because I was like, there's always good things that come from each episode. But yeah, you're right. I think I agree with you. Like, this isn't my favorite, and there are bits
that stands out. Really, is there? There's nothing that grabs you. Like I do love. Because we've quoted this to each other quite a lot. So this is a brilliant quote. Carl's mum's rockbuster of "This man liked his wine," which I think is so genius. That is a standout moment, but it's a very short one. It's such a funny, like, "This man likes his wine." It's such a ridiculous clue. That's good. And also, actually, probably my highlight of the show. They do this a few times, and I know you'll get annoyed with me saying this. You're saying, "Oh, don't talk about this," but I absolutely love the way, because they've done this before with this song, that supersonic sounds when you just hear the first bars of the intro and the last bars of the outro. It sounds so cool. And then
your best part of this episode was hearing a snippet from Oasis.
A snippet when I've got Alexa here wanting to play me Oasis 24/7. I'm just looking. I mean, obviously, we're going to go for our favourite quotes. I think Karl, doesn't make it that entertaining, but I think genuinely this is Karl's best rockbuster, which is Gladys Knight.
Yeah, I was about to say
his
that.
best rockbuster.
Let me start you off. There are bits that I can't listen to about this episode, like the trendy middle class holidays segment.
Yeah.
Where he's talking about, no, don't keep sucking. Keep sucking it. You're a bank manager now, so I'm just going for the taste of it. And then Carl's sigh where he goes, "Oh no."
Yeah.
I would be Karl in that situation, because I can't even listen to that, because there's something about audio that's way more visceral, and like I can imagine that more, which is a horrible thing to imagine.
I think that. Actually, that's probably my favourite part of the show.
Is it really?
And I kind of share Miles's kind of inhibitions, for want of a better word, that we don't like talking about stuff that's gross in that sense of like bowels, sex, but it's just Ricky does it in a funny way, and I think just best holiday I've ever had. Yeah, that's my favourite part of the show. It's so stupid and it's so ridiculous, but every time I listen to those things, I think I love it, because I think this was 12 p.m. midday on a local radio station and he's talking about bank managers sucking off rent boys. And tasting it, it's just so.
It's so gross, isn't it? What do you think about? I think this is like a sort of touchy issue. Stephen Merchant's frustration with the homeless.
Well, I was going to bring this up because basically, I'm just warning you. I will be listening to see if you cut any of this out, right? So I'm going to be diplomatic.
Sure.
So I think I think it's fair to say that Miles's views have evolved on the homeless and on people who are overweight. So I spent a lot of time in our early years defending homeless people. He wasn't that bad, to be fair, and he never attacked one deliberately. So I don't I don't like the fact that Steve's. I mean, I'm very kind of supportive of homeless people, and I'm not saying that to be like, oh God, I'm so good, I'm such a. I think it's such a horrible situation.
You don't spit on them much, do you?
I don't spit on them much anymore. No, just you relieve myself on them. But it's that thing where Ricky actually, Steve can be quite mean, whereas Ricky's mean in a jokey way. But Rick, when it comes to stuff like that, Ricky gets a bit defensive of the defenseless, and we had it last week with Karl's mum, this week with the homeless. Ricky is a bit better in that situation, whereas I don't feel too comfortable about Steve's hatred of homeless. I don't listen to it and think, God, what an evil man. I just don't listen to it and think, well, I'm being entertained right now. It just doesn't do it for me.
I think Steve also knows that at the time, he would have been 29, my sort of age, the time when you do sort of say silly things. I mean, people say silly things, whatever age they are.
No, that's true. That is a fair comment. Yeah.
And but it's so whatever. It's just funny to think. I think there is a reason why like Ricky Gervais doesn't want to like talk about these shows, like the XFM shows. Do you think he would be like? Do you think he'd be sort of took down a peg or two? Like a lot of people with this is funny as well. A lot of people have watched Afterlife 2, right? I'm not a fan of it, as you know, but apparently there's a few bits in it where he's like lifted chats from the XFM shows.
He's done that throughout his career, hasn't he? Because he definitely uses that in his stand-up.
But it's funny that 20 years like still down the line.
But to be, I'll just be fair to Ricky. Like, I don't particularly like Afterlife either. I haven't seen any of Afterlife 2. To be fair to Ricky, you know, if anyone owns those quotes, which no one really owns them as such, they're not written works or published works, but it's kind of him. Like, I don't feel that bad about him taking lines from the show. You know, they are funny situations, and it's kind of.
No, I don't either.
You know,
what I think it. Do you think he'd be like damaged at all if these shows ever did get out to a mainstream audience?
No, I think a lot of people would be, but I don't think he would be, because I think he's built his career, and I think he's done this deliberately because he knows the shows exist, to be like always emphasize how it's not your right to be offended by what I'm saying. So you don't have a right to be offended. Like offence, people should take offence too easily and things like that. He's always talked about this, and I think it's because he knows the shows are out there, and if people do hear them, I think it's got so much to the point where I don't think it would affect his career too badly. And as I say, in the crunch moments, he actually comes out quite well. Like actually comes out like he is disparaging of people. Don't get me wrong, of course he is, but in a funny way. And I don't like disparaging people, but he is funny. But he on the actual serious ones, he actually comes out quite well, because I've noticed he will defend people that Steve or even Karl are mocking. Like he will kind of try and put the alternative point. I don't think he comes out that badly, but I don't think he wants them to come out for different reasons. I think he just sees it as beneath him.
I think it's strange because so many people now are being very like overprotective and over analytical when it comes to their comedy. They don't just stand by something. Like, I think if you produce something, you should just stand by it. Well,
look, I mean, I don't kind of blame Ricky for not. What could he do? Like, put them out on iTunes again? I don't think it's, you know, there's no point in him doing that. To be fair to him, you don't have to always reference work that you did 19 years ago. It's just that, and again, this is speculation on my part, so I might be wrong, but I just think if someone did bring it up with him, he would not discuss it with them. If a fan tried to discuss it with him, if even Steve or Karl wanted to discuss those years with him, I don't think he'll be interested. And that is speculation, to be fair. But at the same time, I don't blame him for not running around publicising him, saying, going on Letterman or Colbert, and saying, oh yeah, by the way, check out these shows I did on.
Well, there's no need as well, is there? Because when you've got that when you're that old, not that he's old, like, but when you've sort of gone through that part of your career, why would you go back? Like, I bet like even Karl gets annoyed that people like us are probably still talking about these shows.
Yeah.
He'd probably much rather us do a podcast about Sick of It than.
But I do think that Karl and Steve are far more likely to like we talked. Obviously, we want to get guests on, but obviously the Holy Trinity are Karl, Ricky, and Steve. It's very unlikely we'd ever get any of them. But Ricky, I think we'd never ever get. But Steve and Karl, I think we're more likely to get than Ricky, because I think they would at least be willing to engage with that time. And Steve did a little bit in his talk to the Cambridge Union or Oxford Union, I can't remember which one. And
can you imagine if we were the people that got the trio together again?
Well, yeah,
would we suddenly be revered as gods after that? We'd be like what, Esther Ranson or something that's brought people together again, or like Cilla Black when she did Family
Surprise.
Yeah,
I think this was basically like surprise, Ricky, Karl, and Steve.
Ricky's behind one door, and I go, "All right, pets,
we got
one of our doors."
Yeah, I think, and this happens to you quite a lot, I think you're getting a bit ahead of yourself. Mars,
I am joking, by the way.
Mars just said on air, Mars just speculated on air, just mused as to whether we will ever be revered.
Wait, just start that sentence up, because you go, Mars mused.
Okay, I could say that. But yeah, I think it's unlikely they'll ever get back together. And to be honest, I don't want to see it, because I don't want to see it. It would never be the same. Like, even we know that, because we don't have to sort of wonder, because the podcasts that they did were not as good. And in fact, the podcasts, as they went on, they got worse. And the relationships were never the same. Like, that's why this is such a special time on XFM, where the relationships are fresh. They're just at that right point. Ricky and Steve have known each other just long enough to do this. Ricky and Steve and Karl have known, Ricky and Steve have known Karl just about long enough for it to be that sort of, it was like a perfect storm, a beautiful perfect storm. And that's why even episodes like this that aren't our favorite, I could still listen to this episode and like I enjoyed listening back to it, and I enjoy listening to it, but it's just not my favorite. But all of the episodes I think hold up.
I like Karl's joke when he says talking about getting breasts insured, and he said, yeah, she should get them covered. One of the few times where Karl has
made a real joke. Yeah.
There's a bit where these are the moments that I like to discuss really on the show. At one point, Ricky is inquisitive as to how many people have listened to the XFM shows. He says, "What are the figures like?" He says, "I'll get them for you. I'll get them for you."
Keep saying that. Yeah, I really like that line. I don't know why. There's just because I think that line's nice to hear, because you're going behind the curtain even more so than usual, because that line tells you that Ricky is off air just come to Karl quite a lot and said what are the things like, and he hasn't given them to him. So I kind of like.
Do you think Ricky cared about how many people listen to the show?
Yeah, I think Ricky has an arrogance about him, which is completely legitimate, because to be successful you have to have some kind of arrogance. But I think he would have liked to. But the great thing about Ricky was, even though he probably wanted more people to listen, he wanted as many people to listen as possible.
And who wouldn't if this was like, if you were lucky enough to be given a radio show? I like the thing I've always speculated with Ricky is like, how did he get that job in the first place?
Well, yeah, I think it was kind of just because he'd been in Shauna Dancing, and that he just got a chance somewhere. I don't know, but my point was that Ricky. Oh yeah, so Ricky's. My point was that Ricky's great. Kind of mocking himself, so he's brilliant at mocking the figures, like read it out and about 400 people will know what's in it, and he talks like he disparages the figures all the time, but I think deep down he did want people to listen, because he's got an arrogance about him that is kind of warranted. I've actually done a feature.
Bloody hell.
I've done a feature. This is my first feature. I'm not bothered.
Should we do a jingle for it, or? Oh, Gary's features.
So basically, and it's not much actually. I just wanted to get your reaction to these.
Yeah,
So
no, read out those lines that you've copy and pasted from Google.
Well, yeah, I am. I'm going to read out the lines I've copied and pasted from Google in a minute. But Steve says at one point, speculate. Was it you, Karl, who said that sponges grow in the sea? How deep would it be if they didn't? And Ricky says, no, it's Steve Wright who deliberately says ridiculous things for a living. I wasn't that aware of Steve Wright. I've heard of him, but
I was only aware of Stephen Wright, the serial killer from Ipswich, one of our few boasts of the Ipswich County.
Yeah, killed 5 prostitutes.
Moving on.
I remember, yeah. So I went on to top Stephen Wright jokes, and I thought I'd read some. Now I'm gonna I don't know what it was, but I'm going to read them out in the voice that Ricky does. So I'm doing the impersonation of Ricky doing an impersonation of Stephen Wright. Now I'm going to say to you now, Muzz, these are hit and miss. So some are good, some are just weird. But anyway, so I'm going to start. It's a small world, but I wouldn't want to paint it.
What?
Okay, here's another one. I almost broke both my arms trying to hold or open a revolving door for a woman. So, I thought you woke up this morning and folded my bed back into a couch. Almost broke both my arms because it's not that kind of bed.
These aren't jokes. They're they're just situations. I'm
gonna get a tattoo over my whole body of me but taller. It's just so hard.
Fucking hell.
Okay, this is a good one. I like this one. This is good as an actual joke. I've been getting into astronomy, so I installed a skylight. The people who live above me are furious. That's good. That's the only one I like. It's the one you didn't like. Why is it that a penny for your thoughts, but you have to put your 2 cents in? Somebody's making a penny.
I hate jokes that use like sayings and phrases like that.
I'm writing a book. I have the page numbers done. Now I just have to fill in the rest.
Is he legit? I mean, it's definitely an angle to be for a comedian, isn't it?
Okay, this is good. I went to a place to eat. It said breakfast at any time, so I ordered French toast during the Renaissance.
Fucking hell. That's almost as bad as your when Gary did stand up.
No, don't hang on. My stand up was good.
No, your stand up talk about that woman.
Oh, the guy. No, these are much better. That's just offensive. I won't go into it, but he just someone out there made a joke that was so bad, and it was quite offensive as well.
I quite enjoyed that though.
Right, I got a couple.
Have you got any more?
I was cesarean born. Can't really tell. Although whenever I leave a house, I go through the window.
I don't understand that one.
Because he's cesarean born, so he goes,
right, yeah, different entrance, yeah.
This is a good one, but you have to think about it. But this is probably the best one. I went to a tourist information booth and said, "Tell me about some people who were here last year." That's actually a good one. That's why you didn't get it, because Mars doesn't get good jokes. But
no, I like the blandness of the other ones. I would if I saw that live, I would laugh.
But that's funny because it's like tourist information, as in not information about tourists rather than anyway.
Yeah, I understand it.
So that was. So do the jingle again, because it's
Gary's features.
Right, I'm going to literally discard that now, so it'll never be saved again.
But we will have a break. There's just one thing I want to talk to about before we get to the quotes. Yeah. Is Karl's thoughts on Shark Mondays.
Yeah, that is true.
The dangers of and this is the thing, right? Karl does come out with some absolute trite, but often, and I think this is part of the reason why Karl loves him. To use a horrible phrase, he says what he thinks, and quite often he says things that we all agree with, but we don't think about. Like that genuinely was a thought that I had at the same time when I heard that. I was like, yeah, we are. He's talking about overfishing, like. You've took that fish out of the sea and it looks good, but who's going to buy it? Which is true, isn't it?
Well, weird and odd people do buy sharks and shark fins and all this ridiculous stuff. So there is a market for it. And
What are you saying about the Chinese?
When they in Selfridges they put them in, because it's not so much so people bought it. It was an attraction. It was something that you would deliberately go and see. And I agree, it's kind of not. It's not. So you'd see that and then go and shop around the rest of the store, but. It's not really ethical.
What would you go? What you would go to Selfridges if they had a big shark as an attraction?
Mate, I would go to Selfridges even if it's closed and go.
Selfridges. So you can do jokes.
I have never been to Selfridges, and no, I wouldn't go and see a shark singing. I'm just saying what they did it for.
Yeah,
did it for that. So let's have a break now.
All right, we'll see you again soon in a bit. What?
Oh, for God's sake. Rubbish. Pathetic.
I've been listening to. I've got a bit of like a radio regime in my head. I as a given rule, I only ever listen and watch programs and film at the weekend. During the week, as a rule, I like to just listen to radio, sort of catch up on politics in the morning, and then I'll listen to a bit of meditation music, maybe a bit of classical, right, to get me going in the morning, right, just to chill out, zone out when I'm doing my morning emails. Then,
could I just say, this really sounds like something you'd write on a dating profile, like to catch up on my politics in the morning, just have a chill out with a bit of classical music, look sophisticated, you look interested in politics. It really sounds like something
it sounded a bit like Train Guy from Bob Mortimer.
yeah, I don't know, but it sounds like you're trying to snare a woman.
I would not try to ensnare.
I know you won't, but
So no, but in the afternoons I'll listen to a bit of History because I'm into my garage music, as you know, Gary, a big garage.
Yeah, and he's not stop going on about garage.
Garage music.
Garage.
And they do this daily competition where you can win like 10k, right? Or it might even be 60k, and you have to send a message, just as text win to whatever 64701 whatever. I've now done that 3 times and it cost £6. It's now cost me £6.
Oh, bloody hell. Do you know what? Do you know what? We should do that. We should set up a phone line and we should say, you win. I don't know what you'd win, but it costs £12 to enter plus postage and packing.
I know, it's funny.
No, it's funny because when on TalkSport do competitions like that, my dad and I used to listen to TalkSport a lot. There was a period where they were giving away a TV each day, and I promise you, out of the 5 days they gave away a TV, and you just had to text in similar thing, win or whatever. He won one, and then his son-in-law won one. I won one the next day, and they only gave away one a day. And then I think his daughter-in-law, my stepsister, won one. So 4 out of 5 days we won the.
What did they win? Smeg fridges? What?
No, a TV. It's an LG. TV. It's all right. Yeah, it's like.
I think that's what was going on in the back of my mind when every time. I know they won. I knew they won something. I was thinking, I could be the winner of that competition because someone's got to win it, haven't they?
I know, but it's dodgy to, I know I said I did it with the TV, but they're like lotteries, mate. You don't play the lottery, do you? I play the lottery, but you don't kind of gamble in that way. So I'm surprised that you entered that competition.
Yeah, but that's it. But what was going through my head was I was just thinking, I couldn't retire on that. I could have a good. I could have a bloody good meal on.
Mate, I'd retire on it, as you know. Bloody good meal. Okay, so anyway, Mars there has given me some tips for my dating profile, and thanks for that, Mars. It was like classical in the morning and jazz at night. And a bit of James Whale through the night.
Have you got a little routine though now for your quarantine?
Well, I tend to watch videos that have been posted on YouTube about things that I'm interested in.
Like what? Terrorism and.
Well, no, what? Sorry, no. It's chess and snooker.
Yeah,
and
that's all right.
And it's a bit of politics. I don't want to Sounds like how you sounded before. Like, I listen to, I do chess, I do politics, I'm the perfect human, I'm the perfect partner. Care someone. But that's my routine. But so I don't kind of have one. But anyway, let's get back to the show now.
And
I think what we're going to do our favourite quotes.
So at number, I didn't get 10. I got 9.
Oh, 9. No, we just do 5. Cut it down. 5 each. That's enough.
Okay,
10's too many.
Okay, so I've done 5.
You should have done 10.
Okay, at number 5, I've got. Shall we play a record and do Wash Up With You? That's after Ricky's sort of. He's been quite patronising with Karl, and he goes, "You'd be an intellectual, really, if you just stored your brain with like useful information. It's just that it's all rubbish."
Yeah, I like that quote from Ricky because I think that's kind of a bit true. Like Karl is a genius in some ways. He just likes weird and.
I found it just patronising though, more than anything.
It is patronising, and you said that Karl's done an interview where he said he did feel patronised at times during the shows, and that was probably one of them. She uses both the words twaddle and crap.
Yeah. At number 4, so yeah, there was this parrot, and that's just after they've said something ridiculous. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, so yeah.
It's because just out of nowhere it goes, yeah, so there was this parrot.
Yeah. I like tattoos.
That was in there.
Very mocks Ricky.
I once my ex, I had a go at her because she went travelling, and she had one of those pretentious travelling quotes across her back in like some.
In Byron?
No, it was in like some Aboriginal like Aboriginal like yeah, it was some language that he could say anything, and I actually said I'd pay to have it.
Yeah, judging on what I know she was like, I'm pleased you came out of that one alive, mate. Because so I loved it. Actually, this is probably my favourite little bit of the show. Is do you know who I am? Explain who I am.
Yeah.
Explain who I am. Like that's just Ricky projecting this overblown arrogance, but it's very, very funny. In those days, he's just perfect at doing it.
Yeah. Number 3, I've got memblant. What does that mean? Whatever you want it to mean. But it's just the way. Memblant.
Memblant. Yeah, that's funny. And why has your dad got a tattoo dopey twat on his arm? That's funny. That's a good line from Ricky.
At number 2, I've got a dodgy butcher. That's another phrase. But
Yes,
how is
back.
the best part of that is just how Karl's kind of, you can imagine this being like some sort of Mexican standoff in the studio where Karl knows exactly where they're thinking, and he just goes, yep.
Yeah.
Like, he knows exactly where this is going. He says, as his meat delivered around the back. And what's that mean, Ricky? Is that for?
Yeah, and Steve, it's always the way Ricky says something a bit dodgy. Karl's like, oh no, and then but Steve eggs Ricky on to try and say,
yeah. But it's not funny because then Ricky, then they'll have a go at Ricky because Ricky is the biggest stirrer.
Yeah. Actually, I've got a point about that. I forgot to get to this in the main show. It's kind of related to what we're talking about now, so I'm going to make it. But there's a few examples where Steve gangs up on Karl with Ricky, and like he pretends to know. And there's a great example of it in this, and it's not a very nice, but it's where Karl says they haven't worked out how flies fly.
Yeah.
And Ricky says, no, it's a bee. And immediately Steve says, it's a bee, not a fly. I'm absolutely sure.
He didn't know that, yeah.
No, he did not have any knowledge of it. I've heard it's a fly and a bee. So it's ambiguous anyway. So it's unlikely you'd have heard it's definitely a bee. Because I think Ricky's a bit wrong there. But Steve, that is... I'd like people to email in. Do you think that Steve... I think Steve was just... straight, it's the first thing he said, it's a bee, not a fly. No, it's a bee, not a fly. Like, it's a classic example of Steve pretending he knows something Ricky knows to kind of increase his intelligence, his shown intelligence, and also gang up on Karl. Now, by the way, I love Steve Merchant. He's funny. He's great. He's brilliant in this show. He's brilliant in all the shows, and I love his work in general. But that is just something I've noticed in the show. He's a bit like a school bully, you know, someone who hangs around with the bully, and he's like, oh, the bully hits us, the bully sort of insults someone, and the other person stands behind the bully and goes, yeah, you know,
that's,
like.
Do you know? That's exactly what Bill Bailey says in his stand-up tour Part Troll, which I used to watch like on repeat when I was growing up. And he says that in relation to Britain's UK's relationship with America, like he's talking about the special relationship that they share together. And he says like Britain is literally like the person that stands behind America as the bully and just goes, yeah.
Yeah, but that's what Steve's doing. Yeah, so it's like us standing behind Erin's back, going, yeah. And Erin is the antagonist because I know Erin is violent. I've heard that Erin can get violent. No, I'm of course joking. Erin is. We'll be coming to your feedback, Erin, in a moment. But yeah, and then let's move on to my next quote. Actually, this is my last one. Can that happen? I love Steve. That's a great.
Yeah.
I've just said something bad about Steve, but that's great. Can that happen? Like, get a taste for it.
My favourite quote, not even my favourite, but just one that makes me laugh a lot every time. He goes, yeah, 17's good, yeah. When they're talking, Karl just goes, 17th century, and just goes, yeah.
Yeah, 17th's good, whatever.
Any kind of every time the Karl gets the date wrong, Ricky always does that classic, yeah.
Yeah. So go on.
No, I just always love that.
It's a good quote. And I think one thing just doing that section shows is, and I said this before, but like Mark Commodes has a rule, 6 laughs in a comedy, and it's a good comedy. I think it's fair to say this isn't our favourite of the Ricky Gervais shows that we've reviewed so far, but it's got a lot of good quotes in it. They're not the best, but they're good and they're good like sort of laughs. So but I'd be interested to hear in general other people's opinions about this particular show, and we'll read them out next week. And that brings us neatly on we definitely need to get a jingle for this.
Do you know what? I was going to say exactly the same thing to you, but then I'll have to make them.
Well, yeah, because I can't be bothered.
But that's the problem, isn't it?
No, of course we'll do it together. Of course I'll have it. Oh, don't pretend you're a workhorse. And actually, Mars does edit all the shows, but I will just say Mars wants to edit all the shows, and I've got a lot of things. I've got a lot of things on. So Mars is very good at it, whereas I'm not. I haven't edited much. So
have you heard them?
No, I haven't. What are we doing? Is this
Yeah.
So we're now going to come on to XFM in the community. Now we had Mars. Because you've got this email from this actually is a very nice email from
Sam Locke.
Sam Locke.
Okay, so Sam says, I love the podcasts. It's great. It's really great in general to hear people talk about the shows in depth. None of my pals are into the shows at all, let alone as much as I am. And there are so many moments I want to discuss with people that can be interpreted many different ways.
Can I just stop you there? Actually, that one sentence like almost sums up this entire show, because him saying none of my friends are really into the show, but I really am. That is us too. Now we've just been very lucky that we happen to know each other and be a fan of the shows. But we the reason we're doing this show is because so many people love it, but they don't have other people to talk about it with. Like if everyone in the country has heard of the show and like people talked about it all the time, we probably wouldn't be doing this show. But because most people, they love the shows, but it's very hard to get someone else in because it takes a long time to build it.
That's true.
Build into it. So that's a lovely comment from Sam.
Can you imagine as well? Like you have to listen to so many shows to get into the sort of mythos and
it's very
and
just check one out, you know. And if you quote something in front of someone and they say where's that from, and that you have to explain, and there's no way they're ever going to explain 50 shows. So Sam, that's lovely to say that none of my pals are into the shows at all, let alone as much as I am. And there are so many moments I want to discuss with people that can be interpreted so many different ways. So yeah, that Sam, that's lovely. Well, that's kind of why we're doing the show. So thank you for that.
He also said, I really enjoy the depth Gary goes into when analysing the dynamic of the shows and when you really get into the psychology of them. And I think that kind of, it is true, isn't it? There's so much to deconstruct. All of these people with their little sort of theories and their sort of ideas about the show. And it's funny that we're still talking about it 20 years on. But it's obviously reflective of the power of them. He's looking forward to us discussing Ricky's birthday and Steve not being invited, Karl's encounter with Robin.
Oh yeah, and actually Sam, because I've read the email but I haven't got it in front of me, but you make some very good points about them. We won't go into them today, but trust me, when those episodes come up, we will read out your feedback on that. We'll save this because you make very good points about them, and kind of, again, you're getting into the psychology of it, which I like. And thank you for your comment about me and the show in general.
Gary, have you got one there you'd like to read out?
Oh no, I just want to say about Sam. So that was a personal email, wasn't it? Like, it wasn't even a even.
And you can email us.
Why aren't more people emailing? I want an email from everyone. Still waiting for my personal letter through the post from FLJS. Probably with anthrax in it.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, however you communicate with us is very nice. But Sam emailed. You don't have to email, of course. Now, Erin, who's a long-time listener, it's fair to say, at least 4 shows, but she said, so I haven't listened to your podcast for episode 14 yet. I'm about to, but I thought it would be fun before I do send my favourite quotes to see if any of mine match up with yours. Now, what's interesting, Erin, and some of her, I'll just quickly go through some of us. Oh, he sounds a bit of a looker. In fact, if you are a bloke, he's calling you a girl. That's all right. They recommend that anyway. Now, these are all brilliant quotes. It's amazing how many times Miles and I do our favourite quotes, and there is no overlap. There was some overlap last week, but we have such similar thoughts about the shows, yet we still take different things from it. And it's interesting that people listening take different things from it. So we take a lot of the same things, but we also take different things. So thanks so much. I love Pink Floyd, except the music again.
But the music.
And she also said, hope you guys are holding up okay. I'm missing being around people, but seeing a new episode of your podcast is posted brings a smile to my face. Thank you, Erin. And again, Miles said this to me off air about Sam's email, and I agree with him. It makes the show worthwhile hearing stuff like that, and also about your message, Erin. It makes the show worthwhile. So thank you, because I honestly, I've never put a smile on anyone's face.
That's true.
Even my mum or my dad.
You've never put a smile on your own face.
I put it's just everyone around me scowls.
That's like Karl, isn't it? He says, he came out of the womb frowning.
yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Last week, thank you, Erin. Last week we talked about times when you've been caught out laughing at the shows. Mr. Pilkington's been in touch. He says, my wife was telling me about her cousin who was taken to the hospital, and I was listening to Karl brutally insulting Steve about his looks. I just laughed out loud when he was talking about going on holiday and people looking at him when he was walking around with Steve.
So he's saying, like, his wife's cousin was taken to hospital and he was laughing. That's brilliant. That's genius.
That is not a situation you want to be in. Simon Colnut said, not in public, but used to stay in every Saturday when they were first on XFM and just cried with laughter to the bemusement of my girlfriend. First things of Karl that really cracked me up was him describing colonic irrigation as coming out of him like the Generation Game.
Yeah. That's good. People have obviously taken to this particular thing that we asked of, because we've had more feedback about this, I think, than probably most things that we put out there. So at times you've inappropriately laughed at, people are obviously people are loving that.
Gary's just gone off for a little walk.
I'm back, mate.
And now he's back again. Where did you go? In your small flat.
You'll find out in a minute.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
So this one's from more feedback from the show. This is from Tao, a new listener. Hi guys, just wanted to say that I love the podcast. Thank you. You're really funny and can't wait for the next episode. I was wondering, do you reference the XFM episode / The Office only between you two, or also with family, colleagues, or other friends? I ask my my partner more than once. Can you believe it? But never get the laugh I go for. Much love from the Netherlands.
Great question. Actually, like I used to quote The Office more than I quoted the show, but I got into a habit, like I could not stop myself from saying "in a way," right? That real Brent in a way, and like I used to say it to people. It's kind of it's funny to me, but it's obviously not funny to someone just hearing it in a way. But there was one person at work who kind of said, "Why do you keep saying that David Brent line?" And he knew
really?
The Office, and it became our little thing. Like I kept saying it to him, but I realised then how much I quote The Office, and yeah, I do quote the show to people.
I think there's a huge generation of people that did do that though, and continue to.
Look, put it this way: there's far more people who quote The Office than quote the Ricky Gervais show on XFM, because The Office is far more widely seen than known about. But yeah, I just love Brentisms and kind of but they're kind of, there's crossover ones from The Office and from the XFM show. You know, it's just Ricky. So yeah, I definitely do that, but usually only to the amusement of myself. As who was that listener?
Tao,
as Tao said. So yeah, good question.
This is from Adam Ratcliffe, talking about times when you've been just stories about the show in general. I was at the Spy Museum in Washington, D.C., and there was an exhibit on the World War II with soldier sending codes. The audio clips were playing, and I heard John has a moustache come from the speaker, and was so proud of the Pilkmeister. He knows his history of that. Yeah.
That's so. I've always wondered. I've looked it up online, and there's kind of some websites say, yeah, it's a bit of a fanciful tale. It didn't really happen. Some say it did, but I've always. So really, he went to which
Washington
museum?
DC Museum,
and they actually said
the
John
Spy Museum. It's called.
That's so interesting. Wow, great information. Thank you.
And now to wrap up, right? Before we get on to the D Trout Spinners library, which I know Gary always remembers.
I love that. That's why I just popped over to get my iPod. So
this is from Yosef. Yosef, big fan of the show. Always gives us
great commenter.
So bear with me. I'm going to read this out word for word. Okay.
Read it. Yeah.
Yes, I will. Hello, boys. Another very enjoyable episode. Just picking up on something Gary says about Ricky defending Karl's mum after an appalling effort at Rockbusters. Although they're from different parts of the country and separated by a decade of age, I've always thought Gervais has more in common in his formative cultural background with Karl than with Steve, despite the fact that he constantly takes the piss out of Karl's insane stories about his past. Steve definitely strikes me as more middle class, whereas Karl and Ricky both clearly have working class roots. Whenever Karl talks about his parents not having any money and his dad having loads of different jobs, Ricky seems more familiar and sympathetic to these concepts than Steve. Ricky talks elsewhere about his parents being poor and his mum ordering things for Christmas through catalogues and paying for it for the rest of the year. They also share the touching fate of both being accidents born years after their siblings. I just wonder if I'm defending Karl's mum here is born out of not wanting to protect, as you say, Gary, another working class housewife who reminds him of his own mum. It's pretty speculative, but for some reasons I've had this theory for years. Steve feels more like a university friend that Gervais met and latches onto when he's been through higher education and left his working class roots behind. Anyway, apologies if I'm in danger of becoming some kind of hybrid version of Johnny Mango and Dickie Anders on your podcast.
No, we wanted Dickie Anders. In fact, Dickie Anders hasn't emailed us since we interviewed him. But no, Yusuf, that's again, and you always have really interesting contributions, so I really appreciate that. And yeah, I think it's interesting. There is that episode where I totally agree with you that Ricky and Karl are far more working class than Steve, who probably is middle class. And even Steve says that line, I can imagine both your kitchens
smell of chip fat,
of chip fat, and that kind of that highlights it. And I'm sure there's something of that behind Ricky's desire to protect Karl's mum. He probably wouldn't. Yeah, would he have done it if it was Steve's mum? Maybe not. But that's definitely a good point. They're kind of there's more in common, Ricky and Karl. They were brought up poor, and I'd never considered that they were both, let's say accidents who'd happened way after their brothers and sisters, which is true. So they probably, they kind of shared an upbringing, because Ricky obviously is incredibly wealthy now, but even up to the point where he was living with his girlfriend, Jane, in London, they were like so poor that they couldn't have curtains or something. So he made curtains out, like he couldn't even afford curtains.
And he was making a suit out of his curtains.
Making a suit out of his curtains. That's it. He couldn't afford a suit. So, he's done really well for himself. But yeah, he's absolutely working class. Good. I really appreciate all your contributions, Yusuf. Again, this week it's very interesting as well. Thank you.
So if you want to be involved with XFM in the community, you know the way to do it. You tweet us. I was about to say you trout us. You tweet us at Trout_D, the best Twitter.
When we take over the world, and the a website called Trout, which is basically the next Twitter run by us, then we'll have at least 40 listeners.
or do talk to me on Duchess_Pennell on Instagram. This is almost it for another episode of the D Trout Spinners. But before we disappear forever for another week, before Gary goes off and has a nap, I thought we could do a bit of our regular feature, which is the D Trout Spinners Library. Basically, each week, Gary and I select a song each, and we put it into our Spotify playlist, and you can listen to that. There'll be a link in the description. Gary, what have you chosen this week?
So I've chosen a song that's very, very close to my heart, and no, it's not really. I just looked through but actually, this is a song I really like. I used to play this when we did the radio show, and it's very underrated. It's "You Can't Hurry Love" by the Supremes.
Oh, I love that song.
Great song. Do 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 do. It's got one of the best intros.
Yeah. It's a good one to get up and dance to on this Friday afternoon.
Yeah, and literally by coincidence, it just happened to be the first song that came up when I was looking. So the lot of thought went into it. Did. I did. But
you're like Ricky turning up to the studio with free CDs, aren't you?
Bought these CDs last week. What's your song, mate?
So, okay, I don't know why, but I've been listening to a lot of like sort of dance and sort of trance music. I'm actually a big fan of like 90s trance music. Well, I'm a fan of 90s music, full stop. But anyway, this one is Born Slippy by Underworld.
Yeah.
And it's one of probably... I remember listening to this song when I turned 18 and a big party. And that was... We got a DJ and everything. But this was the one song that I said, you have to play it. You have to play this song because it's probably the most meaningful. And it was my... And it's from the Trains, which is from one of my favorite films. But the whole Trainspotting soundtrack is amazing anyway.
Very good.
So yeah, those two will be in the D Trout Spinners library. Do continue to follow and like us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, please do. We'll send you money. That is not a legal guarantee, but we
Gary, you said that.
We might send you money. No, we won't. I haven't got it.
Send me money.
Yeah, I was gonna for your laptop that you poured over. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. See you later.